Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Sophie Miller, a specialist in integrative health and preventive medicine. Have you ever felt like your body is trying to tell you something important, but you can't quite understand the message? This is exactly what happens to thousands of people every day when they mistake symptoms of vitamin B12 deficiency for normal aging. And the most alarming part, this deficiency is becoming a true silent epidemic, especially among people over 60. What you attribute to advanced age might be something completely reversible. Have you ever thought about that? Today I'll share information that can literally transform your quality of life or that of someone you love. Stay with me until the end, because the knowledge I'm going to share could be the difference between living your next years with vitality or accepting a decline that doesn't need to happen. Imagine your body as a complex electrical system where each function depends on precise and efficient connections. Vitamin B12 is like high-quality insulating material that protects those wires in your nervous system. It forms the myelin sheath, that protective layer that allows nerve impulses to travel correctly throughout your body. The problem is that as we age, our stomach naturally produces less acid and less intrinsic factor, an essential protein that enables proper absorption of B12. Without sufficient levels of this vitamin, your nervous system literally begins to deteriorate. It's as if the electrical wires in your body start losing their insulation. Signals become weak, confused, or completely interrupted. Let me share a real story that perfectly illustrates this problem. Helena, a 67-year-old woman, was gradually losing her energy and joy of living. Her family began to notice worrying changes in her behavior, frequent forgetfulness, unusual irritability, and even a slight imbalance when walking. She consulted 3 different doctors, and they all suggested it was the beginning of dementia, a devastating diagnosis. They prescribed medications that actually only worsened her symptoms. It was only when an attentive neurologist ordered a complete vitamin panel that the truth came to light. Helena's B12 levels were critically low at just 150 pg/mol, when the ideal is to maintain above 400 pg/mol. Do you know what happened next? After just 6 weeks of receiving B12 injections, Helena reported that she seemed to have rejuvenated 10 years. The mental fog completely disappeared. The tingling in her feet, which other doctors had said was permanent neuropathy, simply vanished. Isn't that extraordinary? A correct diagnosis and a simple treatment completely transformed this lady's quality of life. Now, let's talk about the urgent signs your body might be sending, indicating that it needs B12 immediately. The first sign you should pay close attention to is tingling and numbness in your hands and feet. That pins and needles sensation in your extremities is not normal, even in old age, as many incorrectly believe. When there's a B12 deficiency, the first nerve fibers to be damaged are precisely the longest ones, those that reach to the tips of your fingers and toes. If you frequently feel this sensation, don't dismiss it as just part of getting older. Your body is sending an important alert. The second sign that deserves your attention is overwhelming and persistent fatigue. Do you constantly feel exhausted, even after a good night's sleep? When B12 levels are low, your cells can't receive enough oxygen, resulting in deep exhaustion that no cup of coffee or rest period can completely resolve. It's like trying to drive a car with an almost empty tank. It works, but with much less efficiency and always on the verge of stopping. This fatigue is not laziness or lack of willpower. It's a real symptom that something is missing in your body. The third sign, and perhaps one of the most frightening for many people, is memory problems and mental confusion, frequent forgetfulness, difficulty finding words in the middle of a conversation, or that constant feeling of brain fog are classic signs of advanced B12 deficiency. The most alarming thing is that these symptoms are often confused with the onset of Alzheimer's or dementia. Imagine how many people are being misdiagnosed right now when they actually just have a treatable nutritional deficiency. Have you noticed any of these symptoms in yourself or a family member? It's worth investigating before accepting more serious diagnoses. The fourth sign is unexplained mood changes. If you've been experiencing unusual irritability, anxiety without apparent reason, or depressive symptoms that seem to come from nowhere, know that this could be directly related to your B12 levels. This vitamin is fundamental for the proper production of neurotransmitters that regulate mood. When there's a deficiency, the brain simply cannot produce sufficient quantities of these essential chemicals for emotional balance. Many people are medicated with antidepressants when they could actually benefit from a simple B12 supplement. Finally, the fifth sign you need to observe is paleness, or a slight yellowing of the skin. Vitamin B12 is crucial for the formation of healthy red blood cells. Its lack can cause notable paleness, especially in the palms of the hands, or a subtle yellowish tone in the skin, particularly in the whites of the eye. This is a more visible sign and can be easily identified by yourself or someone close to you. Have you noticed this change in coloration in your skin or in that of an elderly family member? But you might be wondering, why does this happen specifically after 60? The answer lies in the natural changes in our body with aging. With age, our stomach naturally produces less acid, which makes it difficult to extract B12 from the foods we consume. It's as if our body's natural extractor becomes less efficient. Additionally, extremely common medications in older age, such as omeprazole for reflux, ranitidine for heartburn, and metformin for diabetes, block this already compromised absorption even more. Do you regularly take any of these medications? If so, your risks are even greater. Another critical factor that needs to be mentioned: approximately 30% of people over 60 develop a problem called gastric atrophy, a reduction in the stomach cells that produce the intrinsic factor, that protein I mentioned earlier, which is absolutely necessary to absorb vitamin B12. Without this factor, even if you consume foods rich in B12, your body simply cannot properly utilize it. It's like having money in the bank but not being able to withdraw it to use. Now, let's go to the part that interests you most: how to reverse this deficiency and recover your vitality. Unlike other vitamins, B12 is found primarily in animal products. The best food sources are beef liver, which is by far the most potent source, seafood, especially mussels and oysters, wild salmon and tuna, eggs, especially the yolk, and fermented cheeses. A diet rich in these foods can help maintain your adequate levels of B12. However, if you already have an established deficiency or follow a vegetarian or vegan diet, supplementation becomes essential. For those over 60 or with absorption problems, sublingual forms of B12 are particularly recommended, as they bypass the intestinal absorption problem. These tablets that dissolve under the tongue allow the vitamin to enter directly into the bloodstream without needing to pass through the digestive system. In more severe cases, like Helena's that I mentioned earlier, B12 injections may initially be necessary to quickly re-establish adequate levels. Have you already talked to your doctor about your B12 levels? The diagnosis that can save your quality of life is surprisingly simple. The test for serum B12 is a basic blood test and should be part of any checkup after age 60. However, I need to alert you about something very important. The reference values considered normal by most laboratories, generally above 200 ppm, are inadequate according to the most recent studies. Specialists in neurology who deal daily with the effects of B12 deficiency on the brain, recommend maintaining levels above 400 pml for adequate brain protection. Therefore, even if your test indicates that you are within the laboratory's normal range, you might still have insufficient levels for optimal neurological function. As I often tell my patients, the difference between not being sick and being truly healthy might reside precisely in your vitamin B12 levels. In my years of clinical practice, I've witnessed countless cases that seemed like miracles in the eyes of patients and family members, but which were actually simply the correction of a treatable nutritional deficiency. People who recovered their energy, mental clarity, and emotional balance after appropriate treatment for B12 deficiency. Let me share another story that illustrates the importance of this diagnosis. Carlos, a 72-year-old retired university professor, was considering abandoning his volunteer work as a mentor to young scientists because he could no longer follow complex discussions or remember important information during meetings. He had accepted that his brain was no longer the same due to age. After reading an article about B12 deficiency, he decided to get tested on his own and discovered that his levels were at just 180 ml. 3 months after starting adequate supplementation, Carlos reported such a significant improvement in his cognition that he not only returned to mentoring activities but also began writing a book, a project he had abandoned because he believed he no longer had the intellectual capacity to complete it. This is the difference a correct diagnosis can make. You should not accept that constant fatigue, memory problems, or tingling are just part of aging. These can be clear signs of a treatable deficiency that, once corrected, can return years of mental clarity, energy, and vitality to your life. Imagine recovering the sharp memory you had before, the willingness to do activities you love, or simply waking up without that feeling of exhaustion that seems to never go away. All of this could be within reach of a simple blood test and appropriate treatment. So what should be your next step after watching this video? First, if you've identified in yourself or a close family member the signs we discussed today, schedule a medical appointment and specifically request a serum vitamin B12 test. Take this information to your doctor and discuss the possibility of deficiency, even if the symptoms seem to point to other conditions. Second, review your diet and verify if you're regularly consuming the B12-rich food sources I mentioned. Third, if you regularly take medications like omeprazole or metformin, talk to your doctor about strategies to minimize the impact of these medications on nutrient absorption. Remember, knowledge is power, especially when we talk about health. The information I shared with you today could be the difference between years of unnecessary decline and a vibrant third age full of vitality. Your brain and nervous system deserve all the protection and care you can provide. After all, aging is inevitable, but aging with health, energy, and mental clarity is a choice that's within your reach, especially when you have the correct information. I'm immensely grateful that you dedicated your time to this important video. If this information was useful to you, don't forget to like, share with people who might benefit from this knowledge, and subscribe to the channel for more content that can transform your health and well-being. In the comments, share your experience. Have you or someone close to you gone through something similar? Had you already heard about the importance of vitamin B12 for brain health? I'm eager to read your stories and answer your questions. Until the next video, take care of yourself with love and attention. You deserve to live with full health in all stages of life.